What's good? It's your boy Fanon. All right, man, we are coming closer and closer to the month of June. Just one day left in May. Month of June, the way that I see it, is the month of the welterweight division. We've got fights at the top of the division, and two of the three champions fighting. The first one is Errol Spence, the first one is Terrence Crawford and Jeff Horn, and the other one is Errol Spence Jr. and Carlos Ocampo. And when those two fights happen, we're gonna get one step closer, hopefully, to something that looks like it's gonna elude us in the heavyweight division, and that's the unification of the belts. Now, the fight that, of course, I'm looking forward to both of these fights. The Errol Spence Jr. fight, that's my guy, man. I can't lie. I'm really, really impressed by Errol Spence Jr., and I have a suspicion that Errol Spence Jr. is the standout guy at 147 pounds. And so I'm definitely looking forward to his homecoming in Dallas, Texas against Carlos Ocampo. And man, and just trying, once again, setting himself apart from the other welterweights. Now, the reason that I say that I think he's the top welterweight is obviously Terrence Crawford has not fought at the welterweight division yet, but we will also get to see Terrence Crawford and what he looks like against a more established welterweight in Jeff Horn. Now, Errol Spence Jr. was asked some questions about it, and I love the way that he talked about it. He talks about cleaning up his side of the block, and then at that point where he cleans up his side of the block, going over and fighting and cleaning up the other side of the another block, which is the block that I assume will be controlled by Terrence Crawford. Now, in this type of fight, I do believe is something where both fighters are really going to want to make the fight. If we get to the point where the two fights can be made where Errol Spence Jr. takes care of his business and Terrence Crawford takes care of his business, this is a fight that I think can really be made, man. So let me go through the article and then talk about it. All right, this is man. I'm telling you, I'm really excited about the month of June for the welterweights, man. God, dog, man. I swear, May was kind of drab. And the one fight that everybody's looking forward to getting announced and getting done is the Anthony Joshua Deontay Wilder fight. And that looks like that thing might not come to fruition for, a variety of reasons that we'll talk about on other videos. But this one, I think, is probably the most, other than that fight, is the most exciting fight in boxing that we could get. I'm not quite sure that it's going to be this year, but hey, man, it is really, really, really something I think can be like a special type of legendary fight. With Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. scheduled to box a week apart next month, their much anticipated welterweight showdown will surely receive more attention than ever. Whatever you read or hear, don't expect Crawford Spence to happen anytime soon. Spence said as much during a media day Tuesday at R&R Boxing Club in Dallas, where the unbeaten IBF welterweight champion is preparing for his mandatory defense against Carlos Ocampo on June 16th in Frisco, Texas. When asked why some people perceive that he doesn't mention facing Crawford when he's interviewed, Spence explains his stance on one of the most intriguing boxing matches that can be made. The strong southpaw told a small group of reporters, including one from BoxingScene.com, that he wants to beat the top welterweights who are affiliated with Al Haymon's Premier Boxing Champions before pursuing a 147-pound championship unification against Crawford. That's assuming, of course, Spence overcomes Ocampo and Crawford, defeats Horn on June 9th to take the WBO welterweight title from the Australian champion. Quoting Spence, well, basically, let me clean up my side of the street. Basically, when I'm saying my side of the street, Al Heyman and Showtime, let me clean up my side of the street and I'll come over there and take up that side of the block too. That's what I'm doing. I mean, you got a lot of talented fighters signed to Al Heyman. We've got Danny Garcia, we've got Sean Porter, we've got all these things. We had Lamont Peterson, we had Keith Thurman, but he's doing whatever he's doing right now. So let me clean up my side of the block. Then I'll come over there and take over their block later on. Crawford is promoted by Bob Arum's Top Rank. Heyman and Arum have worked together on previous events, but the allegiances of Spence and Crawford will put making their fight together more difficult. Meanwhile, Philadelphia's Garcia and Las Vegas's Porter will fight for the WBC welterweight title Thurman gave up last month, either August 25th or on an undetermined date in September. The often injured Thurman of Clearwater, Florida, is expected to fight at some point this summer for the first time since defeating Garcia by split decision in their welterweight title unification bout nearly 15 months ago. The 28-year-old Spence continues winning. If he continues winning, cleaning up his side of the street could take him well into 2019. The DeSoto, Texas native made it clear, however, that he wants to fight Crawford at what he feels is the appropriate time. Terrence Crawford, well, he don't have a belt yet, Spence said, but if he does get the belt from Jeff Horn, I'm coming to take that belt too, because I want to be undisputed welterweight champion of the world. The 30-year-old Crawford of Omaha, Nebraska will challenge Horn a week from Saturday night at the MGM Grand Arena in Las Vegas. A week later, Spence will meet Carlos Ocampo, Mexican's Ocampo, in the main event of a Showtime telecast from the Ford Center at the Star, the Dallas Cowboys training facility. So, yeah, man, that's about it. Now, I do agree with what the author says, that this is a fight that more than likely is going to take a while to be made. But I don't mind that, because the things that have to take place in order for it to happen are all a bunch of exciting fights. Except on Errol Spence Jr. side, right? In order, he beats Carlos Ocampo. Now, Carlos Ocampo, I do believe that's his mandatory. That's not a fight that I'm particularly excited to see in because of the opponent that he's facing. I think that this should be I think this should be a landslide. I mean, I really think that should be a landslide, and Errol Spence Jr. should wind up knocking this guy out and looking terrific doing it. That's my belief. As you know, different things happen in boxing. You never know what's going to happen. But he's a very, very heavy favorite. But after that fight, the winner between between Danny Garcia and Sean Porter, if he fights that's a fight that I would take just as willingly as taking a fight between Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford, right? Because that will have another one of the major championship belts that get unified. And it is a fight that should happen, that can happen, because there's no promotional issues between the two fighters, per what the article said. Now, there might be some courage issues. It seems to me as if both Danny Garcia and Sean Porter are more excited about fighting Keith Thurman. Now, Keith Thurman is also the WBA champion. He's the WBA champion, so he's still in the mix as well. But like Errol Spence Jr. said, that whole combination of fighters at 147 pounds that go from the IBF, the WBC, and the WBA, actually that's like 3/4 of the street, right? If Terrence Crawford gets past Jeff Horn, then that's a lane. That's just one of the four belts. But like I said, man, it is what it is, and I'm really looking forward to those fights. So I don't mind this. I don't mind the fact that a Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence fight might be a little bit further down the road. Now, as far as what Terrence Crawford can do at 147 pounds, if he gets past Jeff Horn, right? Which I've said before, I've said many times, I definitely favor him to win that fight. I give Jeff Horn a little more credit than a lot of other people give Jeff Horn. I think Jeff Horn is a solid fighter. He's a very big guy. This will be Terrence Crawford's first foray into the welterweight division. So, to the extent that there are unknowns about Terrence Crawford, that's one. How's he going to deal with fighting a guy who's basically 154 pounder? Might be a middleweight. So how's he going to deal with the size and the strength of Jeff Horn and a confident guy who just came off of beating Manny Pacquiao? So many people don't want to give Jeff Horn the credit for having beaten Manny Pacquiao, but hey man, he won the fight, and he was convinced. And even if you think that you would have scored it differently, I mean, it's very obvious that he was highly competitive with Manny Pacquiao, and Manny Pacquiao's, even in his advanced age, is not a soft touch. We'll see for sure if we'll verify whether he's a soft touch, next, however, when he fights Lucas Matisse for the WBA regular title. But that said, I say that I definitely have Terrence Crawford winning that fight. What Terrence Crawford would do in the interim, I'm not sure, right? Like who it is, that he's going to be able to fight at welterweight that, that's really going to be entertaining fights to see. If he beats Jeff Horn, convincingly, or if it's a tough fight, there could be a rematch with Jeff Horn. More than likely, he's going to wind up fighting somebody, from Bob Arum's, from Top Rank stable. That's typically how Bob Arum operates. It could be a Manny Pacquiao fight, even though I just don't see that happening. And I definitely don't see him fighting, but Lucas Matisse, I guess, is over there at I believe he's over with Golden Boy. At least Golden Boy's representing him in this fight with Manny Pacquiao. I don't really see how he can have a particularly competitive time at 147 pounds. There's guys like the number two rated guy for the IBF is Yordenis Ugas. That could be a good fight that he can make after that. There's also guy, I don't know if Bradley Skeet had some of the UK guys. There could be a couple good UK guys that he might be able to fight. But your Amir Khans. There's also I guess the number 6 guy from the WBA, Jose Benavidez, who Terrence Crawford got in all of that beef with. That's another option that he has at 147 pounds. But outside that, I guess there's Panamarev. Panamarev is the number 10 for the WBC and is somebody that's represented by Top Rank. So, it's just not a lot out there at the welterweight division that's not with the PBC. And I'm not sure if Ugas is or isn't. I believe that he does fight with the PBC, but like the article said, there has been times when Bob Arum has worked with. I think Bob Arum is more open to having fights with the guys from the PBC if it's somebody that his guy can beat, and somebody that's not a terribly expensive. Is not a terribly expensive matchup. Also, Terrence Crawford could probably fight, the winner, maybe the loser of the Danny Garcia and Sean Porter fight. The fight that I would really love to see is Terrence Crawford versus Danny Garcia, because prior to Terrence Crawford moving up from 135 to 140 pounds, it was Danny Garcia who was the man at 140 pounds. And then Danny Garcia moved up to 147 pounds and held at a point the WBC title at 147 pounds. So really, I think that's probably the most natural matchup that I could see outside of Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. And I would love to see that. Unfortunately, I don't see. I'm favoring Danny Garcia in the Sean Porter fight. And when I'm saying I favor him, I'm favoring him like 50, 50.1 to 49.9. I think that Danny Garcia is the better. I think Danny Garcia is the better boxer. And it just, but not so much a better boxer that I would just totally, that I would lean heavily towards him winning, because I think that Sean Porter has a very, very awkward style. He's very strong. He's fought very, very good he's fought very, very good competition. And, and he's got a serious will to win. And I just see that being a real, real, real ugly fight. Now, Danny Garcia has a little bit of the, I think he's got a little bit of the Canelo Alvarez in him, in that, he's gotten some decisions that I don't necessarily agree with, right? Where he got a decision over Lamont Peterson. I personally scored that fight for Lamont Peterson. And Mauricio Herrera, same thing. I just don't see how the judges gave that to him. But yeah, so that's probably the biggest reason that I give him a slight edge over Sean Porter. But either Sean Porter against Terrence Crawford or Danny Garcia against Terrence Crawford. Either Danny Garcia against Terrence Crawford or Sean Porter against Terrence Crawford. Man, I would take either one of those, man. I guess he could also try to get, maybe Adrian Bronner to come all the way to fight him at a catch weight. But I don't think that would matter. It would be an entertaining fight while it lasted, though, between Terrence Crawford and Adrian Bronner. I would love to see it, man. I would love to see it just for the hype leading up to the fight. But, I don't think that's anything we have to worry about. But at the end of the day, man, once again, and I've been saying this all year and the later half of last year, that the welterweight division at the top of the welterweight division is my favorite division. And other than Keith Thurman, now that's the other one. I'm sorry, I guess I missed that one. Keith Thurman coming off of an injury very well could be a fight that could get made with Terrence Crawford, because I think Keith Thurman would fight Terrence Crawford before Keith Thurman fought Errol Spence Jr. I just think stylistically and just size wise that that Keith Thurman would be less worried about Terrence Crawford than I think he is against Errol Spence Jr. Because I think when Keith Thurman gets in there with Errol Spence Jr., especially after this type of long layoff, in his tendency to get injured, I think that's just going to be. I think it's a wrap on Keith Thurman if he gets in there with Errol Spence. But since Keith Thurman has not just come all the way out and say that he's retiring, I'm still leaning towards the fact that the guy's going to come back and fight. And with the WBA, I believe with his WBC belt gone, Keith Thurman could, if he came back, get that fight with the winner of Danny Garcia and Sean Porter. He could do that. But I had just for no good reason. I believe that, well, there is a reason. It's because all these offers that are being made the offer that's being made to Keith Thurman by Top Rank. And I just think that could be an escape route that Keith Thurman could use, believing that not only that, he could also get his hands on a fight with Manny Pacquiao. If Manny Pacquiao beats Lucas Matisse for the WBA regular title, that means the WBA would have which is a de facto Top Rank guy, if he's not already just re-signed, in Manny Pacquiao, as well as another Top Rank guy in Terrence Crawford, who would hold the WBO belt if he gets past Jeff Horn. Now, if he loses Jeff Horn, I definitely think that Jeff Horn would jump over there and try to do something over there with the PBC, because he just seems to me to be a guy, just honestly, that has a lot of courage, man, that is more than willing to get in there with tough fighters. And at least that's what I see here coming out of his mouth. I hear coming out of his trainer's mouth, and what I've seen in the ring, man. He's been in deep the last two fights. So if he was able to beat Terrence Crawford, I would have to believe that his confidence would be at a level where he'd be willing to go over there and fight the guys at the WBA, the IBF, and the WBC. And since I do believe he would be free from Top Rank, he'd probably have a lot of mobility to do that with Lonergan. Anyway, so with that, I'm out. Peace.